Section 56 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 22. Purgatory, Statius, the Angel of Justice, the Sixth Ring, Gluttony, Instances of Temperance.
Already was the angel left behind, the angel who had toward the sixth ring turned us, after erasing from my face a wound. And he had said to us that those are blessed whose longing is for justice, and his words, with nothing further, ended this with thirst. Hence, lighter now than at the other passes, I so advanced that I, without fatigue, was following up the spirits who were swift, when Virgil thus began:
A love that flames, by virtue kindled, always lights another, if but its flame be outwardly revealed. And therefore, from the hour when Juvenal, who let me know thy love for me, came down among us in the borderland of hell, my good will hath been such toward thee, that none e'er bound me more to one I had not seen. These stairs will, therefore, now seem short to me. But tell me, and forgive me as a friend, if too great confidence relax my rein, and as a friend converse with me henceforth. How was it Avarice could find a place within thy breast together with such wisdom, as that wherewith thou by thy zeal wast filled?
At first these words made Statius smile a little, and then he answered,
Every word of thine is of thy love for me a precious proof. Things of a truth quite frequently appear, which offer one false arguments for doubt, because the real occasions are concealed. Thy question makes me sure of thy belief, due maybe to the ring where I was found, that I was in the last life avaricious. Know then that avarice was too far from me, and that this lack of temperance on my part thousands of courses of the moon have punished. And were it not that I corrected me when I had understood thee in thy cry, indignant, as it were, with human nature, why dost thou not, O virtue's love of gold, govern the appetite of mortal men? I now, by rolling, feel the wretched jousts. I then perceived that hens could ope their wings too much in spending, and repented me of that, as well as of my other sins. How many from the grave shall hairless rise, through ignorance which, in life and at the last, deprives them of repentance for this fault? Know too that any fault which of a sin is just the opposite, together with it drieth its green leaves here. If therefore I, to purge myself, have been among the folk who avarice bewail, to me it happened because of what was contrary thereto.
When thou didst sing then of the cruel strife between the two afflictions of Jocasta,
said he who sang bucolic songs,
by that which Clio singeth with thee there, the faith without which doing good is not enough, had not, it seems, yet made thee a believer. If this be so, what sun, or else what candles, lightened thy darkness so that thou thereafter didst set thy sails behind the fishermen?
Thou first didst send me to Parnassus' slopes to drink,
he said to him,
and then the first thou wast who next to God illumined me. Thou didst like him who, when he walks by night, a light behind him bears nor helps himself, but maketh those that follow after see, when thou didst say, The age renews itself, justice returns, and man's primeval times, as down from heaven a new-born race descends. Through thee a poet I became, through thee a Christian. But that thou mayst better see my sketch, I'll set my hand to colour it. Pregnant already with the true belief, sowed by the eternal kingdom's messengers, was every portion of the whole wide world. And now thy words, to which I've just referred, with these new preachers harmonized so well, that I became accustomed to frequent them. Thereat so holy did they come to seem, that when the mission persecuted them, their lamentations did not lack my tears. And while I still remained in yonder world, I helped them, and their upright mode of life caused me to treat with scorn all other sects. And ere in poetry I led the Greeks to see the streams of Thebes, baptized I was, and yet through fear, a secret Christian only, I long pretended faith in paganism. This lukewarmness around the fourth ring moved me till far beyond the fourth centennial year. Thou, therefore, that didst lift the covering veil which hid from me the good whereof I speak, tell me, while we have still a little more to climb, where our old Terence is, and where Cecilius, Plotus, Varro, if thou know. Tell me if they are damned, and in what ward.
Both they and Persius, I and many others,
My leader answered him,
are with the Greek, who more than any else the Muses nursed, in the first circle of the sightless prison. And frequently we talk about the mount which always hath our nurses on its slopes. Euripides and Antiphon are there, with us Simonides and Agathon, and many other Greeks, who once adorned their brows with laurel. There of thine own folk Antigone is seen, Deiphyle, Argia, and, as sad as once, Ismene. There too may she be seen who showed Langia. There is Tiresias' daughter, Thetis also, and with her sisters there Deidamia.
And now the poets both of them were silent, intent again on looking round, since free from climbing up and free from walls, and while 4 handmaids of the day had dropped behind, the 5th was at the sun-car's pole, still upward pointing its burning horn, whereat my leader,
I think that it behooves us now to turn our right sides toward the outer edge, and circle the mountain as our wont it is to do.
thus was our custom, our instructor there, and with less doubt we started on again, because of that deserving soul's ascent. In front they went, and I behind, alone, listening the while to what they had to say, which gave me understanding for my verse. But soon their pleasant talk a tree broke off, which in the middle of the road we found, with fruit agreeable and sweet to smell. And as a fir tree tapers up from branch to branch, so likewise this one tapered down, in order, I believe, that none may climb it. And on the side on which our path was closed, down from the lofty cliff a limpid stream was falling, and spraying upward o'er its leaves. Then toward the tree the 2 bards turned their steps, and from among its leaves a voice cried out,
Of this food there will be for you a dearth.
Then,
More did Mary think of honouring the marriage feast and making it complete, than of her mouth, which pleadeth now for you. The ancient Roman women were content with water for their only drink, and Daniel thought little of his food, but wisdom gained. The primal age was beautiful as gold. With hunger it made acorns sweet to taste, and nectar every little brook with thirst. Honey and flying locusts were the food which fed the Baptist in the wilderness. Hence he is now as glorious and as great as by the gospel is revealed to you.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 22. Section 57 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 23. Purgatory, the 6th ring. Gluttony. The punishment of gluttons. Forese donati.
while I, as likewise he is wont to do who wastes his life in hunting little birds, was piercing thus the green leaves with mine eyes, my more than father said to me,
My son, come on now, for the time assigned to us should be more usefully distributed.
I turned my face, and no less soon my steps, behind the sages, who so talked that walking they caused to be of no expense to me. Then lo, in tearful and in singing tones,
My lips, Lord,
was heard in such a way that to delight and sorrow it gave birth. O gentle father, what is that I hear? Said I, and he then,
Shades who, moving on, loosen perhaps the knot of what they owe.
as pilgrim travellers do, who lost in thought on meeting unknown people on the road, turn round to look at them, but do not stop. Even so behind us, though more quickly moving, there came a band of souls, who as they passed, devout and silent, gazed at us in wonder. Each was expressionless and hollow-eyed, pale in his face, and lacking so in flesh, that of his bones his skin assumed the shape. I do not think that even XXIII became so withered into utter skin, because of fasting, when he feared it most. Thinking within myself, I said, Behold the people who once lost Jerusalem when Mary thrust her beak into her Son. The sockets of their eyes seemed gemless rings, and he that Omo reads in human faces would surely there have recognized the M. Who would believe the perfume of a fruit and odour of a water could so act and cause such craving, if he knew not how? I still was wondering what so famished them, because the reason of their being lean and of their wretched scurf was not yet clear, when lo, a shade from deep within his head, turning his eyes toward me, looked hard, and then cried out aloud,
What grace is this to me?
I never should have known him by his face, but that to me was in his voice revealed, which in itself his aspect had suppressed. That spark rekindled all that I had known of that disfigured countenance, and thus I recognized it as Forese's face.
Prithee, heed not the dried-up scab,
he pleaded,
which discolours thus my skin, nor any lack of flesh that I may have, but tell the truth about thyself, and who those two souls are who bear thee company. Refrain no longer from addressing me.
I answered him, Thy face, which once as dead I mourned for, gives me now no smaller cause for weeping, that I see it so disfigured. For God's sake tell me then what strips you thus. Make me not talk and wonder too, for ill can he converse who longs for something else.
A virtue from the eternal will,
he said,
comes down into the water and the tree we left behind, whereby I thus grow lean. And all these people who in tears are singing because of following unchecked love of food, are here re-sanctified in thirst and hunger, the pleasant odour issuing from the fruit, and from the spray which o'er the verdure spreads, kindles in us the wish to eat and drink. And not once only is our pain renewed, as on this floor we move around. Our pain, I say, though solace ought to be my word, for to the tree doth that same longing lead us, which once led Christ in happiness to cry, My God, when with his blood he set us free.
And I to him, Forese, from the day when thou didst for a better life change world, 5 years have not yet rolled away till now. If power of sinning further ended in thee before the coming of that happy hour of sorrow, which re-weddeth us to God, how is it thou art come up here? I thought that I should find thee still below, down there, where time restores itself by means of time, whence he to me.
My Nella, with the tears which streamed from her, enabled me to drink the pleasant wormwood of this pain so soon. She, with her pious prayers and with her sighs, hath drawn me from the hillside where one waits, and freed me from the other lower rings. So much the dearer a delight to God is my poor widow whom I loved so much, the more alone she is in doing right, for far more modest in its women is the wild Barbagia region of Sardinia than the Barbagia which I left her in. O my dear brother, what wouldst have me say? I have, e'en now, a future time in sight, to which this hour will not be very old, when from the pulpits shameless Florence women will be prohibited to go abroad showing their bosoms with the breasts exposed. What Barbary women or what Saracens e'er needed spiritual or other laws to keep them covered up when going out? But if the shameless ones were sure of what a swiftly moving heaven prepares for them, their mouths for howling would be open now. For, if my foresight here deceive me not, they'll grieve, ere that one's cheek grows hair who still is hushed with lullabies. Now, brother, see, I pray, that from me thou no longer hide. Thou seest that not only I, but all these people gaze where thou dost veil the sun.
Hence I to him, If thou recall to mind what thou with me wast once, and with thee I, still grievous will our present memory be. Who goes before me turned me from that life the other day, when that one sister round was seen by you, and at the sun I pointed. Through the deep night hath he conducted me, and from among the truly dead, still clothed in this real flesh, which follows in his steps. Thence his encouragements have drawn me on, as up I climbed, and circled round the mount, which straightens you whom crooked made the world. He says that he will make me his companion, till there I am where Beatrice shall be. Up there without him must I needs remain. Virgil is he who tells me so, at him I pointed, and this other one, the shade, because of whom just now on every slope your realm, which from itself removes him, quaked.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 23. Section 58 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 24. Purgatory, the sixth ring. Gluttony. Instances of gluttony. The angel of temperance.
Speaking slowed not our gait, nor did our gait our speaking, but still talking we went on apace, as by a fair wind driven, a ship. The shades meanwhile, who looked like things twice dead, drew wonder through their hollowed eyes at me, when they perceived that I was still alive. And I, continuing my talking, said, He, for another's sake, is going up more slowly than perhaps he else would do. But if thou know, say where Picarda is, and whether I see any here worth noting among these people who so gaze at me.
My sister who, 'tween fair and good, was most, I know not which, on high Olympus triumphs, happy already in the crown she wears.
This he said first, and then,
We're not forbid to name each here, since by our abstinence our aspects are so greatly milked away. This Bonajunta is.
His finger showed him.
The Luca Bonajunta, while the face beyond him, more embroidered than the rest, had in his arms the Holy Church. Of Tours he was, and now, by fasting, expiates Bolsena's eels and rare Vernaccia wine.
And many more he named me one by one, and all, when named, seemed satisfied. Hence I, because of this, saw not a gloomy act. Using their teeth through hunger, though in vain, I saw both Ubaldino della Pila and Boniface, who pastured with his crook much folk. I Ser Marchese saw, who once had time to drink less dryly at Forlì, yet such he was, that he did not feel sated. But as one looks, and more of one man thinks than of another, so did I at him of Lucca, who it seemed most wished to know me. He murmured, and I heard I know not what about Gentuca, uttered where he felt the wound of justice which consumes them so. O soul, that seem'st so fain to speak to me, said I, so do that I may understand, and with thy words appease thyself and me.
There is a woman born,
he then began,
nor weareth yet a veil, who, howsoever it be reproached, shall cause my town to please thee. With this provision shalt thou now go on, and if by what I murmured thou wast led astray, events shall make it clear to thee. But tell me whether him I here behold, who those new rhymes produced, which thus began, Ye ladies, who well know what loving is.
And him I answered, I am one who heed when love within me breathes, and outwardly express myself as in me love dictates.
O brother, now I see,
said he,
the bar which kept this side of the sweet new style I hear, the notary, Guiton, and myself. I clearly see that your pens closely follow in the dictator's wake, which certainly was not the case with ours, and he who further sets himself most to look between these styles perceives no other difference.
Whereupon, as if content with this, he ceased to speak. As birds that spend the winter along the Nile form in the air at times a flock, and then with greater speed fly on, and in a line advance, So likewise all the people there quickened their steps with faces turned around, since through their leanness light, and through their will. And as a man who wearies of running lets his companions go, and only walks, until the panting of his chest has ceased, even so Forese let the holy flock pass on, and saying,
When shall I again behold thee?
came along behind with me. I know not, I replied, how long I'll live, but I shall not so soon return, that sooner I shall not with my will be on the shore, because the place where I was set to live strips itself further day by day of goodness, and now to dismal ruin seems ordained.
Now go,
said he,
for him I see who most hath blame for this, behind a beast's tail dragged down to the vale, where none e'er frees himself from fault. The beast with every step goes faster, and ever faster, till it hurls him down, and leaves his body in disgraceful plight. Those fears have not much further to revolve.
He raised his eyes toward heaven.
Ere clear to thee will that become which my words can explain no more. Stay now behind, for in this realm so precious is our time, that, coming thus at even pace with thee, I lose too much.
As at a gallop from a riding troop a horseman issues forth at times, and goes to win the honour of the first encounter, so he with longer strides departed from us, and on the road with those two I remained, who of the world such mighty marshals were. When he had gone so far ahead that now mine eyes became such followers of his form, as of his words my mind, the heavy laden and living branches of another tree appeared before me not so far away, since toward it I had only then turned round. Beneath it folk I saw with upraised hands, who toward the foliage cried I know not what, like eager children who in vain beseech, while he, to whom they pray, replieth not, but with a view to make their longing keen, holds what they long for up, and hides it not. They then departed as if undeceived, and thereupon to that great tree we came, which turns away so many prayers and tears.
Pass on without approaching. Higher up a tree there is, which bitten was by Eve, and this one is an offshoot sprung from that.
Thus said I know not who among the branches. Hence Virgil, I, and Statius, close together, advanced along the side which rises up.
Recall,
he said,
those cursed cloud-born creatures, who gorged with food and drink, 'gainst Theseus strove with double breasts. The Hebrews too recall, who at their drinking showed that they were soft, whence as his fellows Gideon had them not, when he on Median down the hills advanced.
Thus, hugging close one margin of the ring, we passed, and heard of gluttonies, which once were followed by distressful gains. Then, spreading out across the lonely path, more than 1,000 steps had borne us on, in contemplation each, without a word.
What think ye three, as thus alone ye go?
A voice cried suddenly, whereat I started, as scared and sluggish beasts are wont to do. I raised my head to see who this might be, and ne'er were metals in a furnace seen, or glass as red and bright as one I saw, who said,
If ye are pleased to mount above, ye must in this direction turn aside. This way goes he who goes in quest of peace.
His aspect had bereft me of my sight. I therefore turned and stepped behind my teachers, like one who guides his feet by what he hears. And as when heralding the light of dawn the breeze of May sheds fragrance as it stirs, all redolent of grasses and of flowers, so 'gainst my brow I felt a zephyr's stroke, and well perceived the motion of the wing which made me scent ambrosian odours there.
Blessed are they whom so much grace illumes,
I heard one saying,
that the love of taste stirs not too great a longing in their breast, but always hunger only as is right.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 24.